Hi everyone, I'm just going to do a very quick video of the lesson that I've taught on using Nearpod. It's for inferential and literal comprehension, and it could go anywhere from an hour to, or I could shorten it, or it could be longer for over 3 different lessons. So you can just sort of adapt it as you want. My advice is to make more and be able to move around in it depending on student engagement rather than less. But you can also teach this within 10 minutes, choosing the right parts that you want for explicit teaching or for assessment. So we'll start off the lesson. This lesson the theme is Vietnam, so it would start off immediately with a field trip. Students would be able to look around, and I'd ask them about some literal inferential comprehension questions about the place that they are. Then I'd explain that it's the market and talk about would they eat the food, that type of thing. We'd move straight into another one where we're talking about another type of market, which is the floating markets, and they would have a look around at I would talk about the different types of ways that Vietnamese people sell their food and buy their food. Then we would go into an open-ended question, get a little bit of that prior knowledge. What do you know about Vietnam? Moving into a well-being check-in. And at this point, somebody that's been participating really well or needs a little bit of extra sort of connection, I would get them to choose which one they wanted to choose. And let's say they chose on the scale of Baby Yoda, that's one that they often want to choose, and they just circle which one they're feeling today, and that's just an initial connection with them. You can see down the bottom I have an overview of the lesson, and that has the lesson structure just so they have a general idea of what's to come. Then we move into the points where it's just reinforcing those behaviour expectations, and I get them to interact with it using a draw it so that they're getting that explicit reinforcement of those behaviour expectations. I'd go into a literacy warm-up after that, and that's just a little game of categories. Then we get into the lesson. So this is where we're starting with the learning intention. Today we're learning to, and moving into the success criteria. And this is something that repeats throughout the program, focusing on the same success criteria until I have evidence 3 times that they have achieved each of those. With some students it will be the whole program, some students they might get it within this one lesson, so that will depend where you move to from there. Using that Mazzano scale, we'd have a bit of a self-assessment. This happens at the beginning and the end of this lesson, and students can just circle how they're feeling in relation to whether they think they're achieving the success criteria or what they need more help with. You have your visual prompts to start off with for the first success criteria, and we've got matching a keyword from the question to the text to see where to find the answer. So I might just show you down along the bottom because you can actually see the reel. You've got a prompt: scan for the keyword, look at the picture, what Guinness World Record might they be breaking, think of a keyword. And this is where they look at a picture of somebody doing a Guinness World, or of somebody achieving a Guinness World Record, and they have their thoughts about what they think the keyword would be about in the text. They're obviously going to choose hula hoop for this one, and it moves into a drag and drop, which I can scaffold for the students that need it or not. Does the sentence match the picture? Drag and drop. So they would find the one that says largest hula hoop, and they would drag that under yes and drag the other ones under no. But for some students who take longer to process, I can help them scaffold that along the way. So there you go, they've identified the keyword there in a very quick way that maximises their engagement. And for and I like to have a lot of these type of, is this impressive, and they can put in a thumbs up, thumbs down, or it's just a subjective comment that they can give. Are they impressed by this Guinness World Record or not? And it just keeps students constantly engaged and constantly accountable for interacting and participating in the lesson. The time to climb will then go into reinforcing the learning intention, so and the success criteria. So what is a keyword? Where would we find the keyword? That type of question. So that each lesson they're having repeated understanding of why it's important to find the keyword and what finding a keyword will help them to do when it comes time to reading or answering comprehension questions. Then we go into making connections between texts, and you can see here it's going to be a video of the world's longest glass bottom bridge. So what I do in this program is I have always a Guinness World Record image followed by a video that links to the lesson's theme. So the lesson's theme is Vietnam, and the link is it's the world's record-breaking longest glass bottom bridge. Following that, it will just be a quick poll to have them check in and be engaged while they're watching. After they're watching, would you walk over this bridge? It's a fun way to build some rapport and have them share their personal opinions. Then just move that across here. So then this would be where I'd get a bit of a writing sample from them as well as their understanding. They can use these sentence starters, but what I'm looking for here is for them to say the image and the video are both similar because they're both about Guinness World Records. These texts, so understanding again to do this, that they have to work out, they have to have the understanding that an image is a text and that a video is a text, and these texts are different because, and that's where we can have those ideas. So again, the same type of routine. Each lesson we go in to scan the keyword. Where's Wally is a really good brain break game that's a really good idea to play with with the Draw It tool. They really love that. And for these types of things, I say this is like Where's Wally, but with words, keywords that you have to find in here. So find and circle these places in Vietnam, and they do that. Some students might take longer than another to find it, in which case I can share somebody's and let them find out where that is, which, you know, gives them that nice audience for their work. And this sort of contextualizes the theme and all the places and all the texts that we're looking at and reading. So now we're going to look at a printed text, and I use the same printed text throughout when I'm looking at more print. I read the text to them unless I think they can read it to themselves. This is this can be taught, this can be differentiated for students right up until high school, including high school, the early years of high school, because it depends what it is that you're teaching. So, and how much you're reading and differentiating yourself. We've got the Draw It here, and this is where I'm going to, sorry, on the page before, I'm going to model how to, here, I'll just grab the annotate tool, and I'm going to choose the word, oh, hang on. Okay, I'm going to find the keyword. So we're looking for a keyword, and I'm going to ask them the question, the temperature is hotter in the South or North Vietnam. Where do you think is a keyword in that question? And they're going to say the keyword is temperature. So I might model where they're going to find it, and I'll say this is where the answer to the question is going to be. Then I'm going to get them to have a turn, but this time they have to find 3 key words in that question, so temperature, north and south, which they'll all find around there, and they can show where they would find the answer to the question. So again, looking at why we're finding keywords, it's so that we can find whereabouts in the text is the answer to the question. Then again, we look at vocabulary, and I would model here. This time I would probably use a tool like the highlighter, but that you can see through still, and I'd say, okay, our keyword is, region. What are 2 words around the word region? Looking for context clues. What are words around it that might give me some clues? And they would say maybe rolling hills, mountain peaks, forests, and then we discuss that regions are areas and maybe parts of the country. Or actually, now that I'm looking at it, parts of the country pretty much tells you the answer there. So then they have a go with the word climatic. And back to a check-in just to reinforce those behaviour expectations throughout and just give them sort of a prompt to make sure they're still doing the right thing. Moving into answering some hidden inferential questions. And they would be looking here at a video about from Intrepid Travel, which is just basically travelling around Vietnam. If you're using the Nearpod videos, they work a lot better. They always work. The vocabulary videos are particularly good, but when you're using YouTube, it depends sometimes on their bandwidth. It might depend on their Wi-Fi connection. It might depend on whether their school has blocked YouTube. So sometimes it may or may not work for them, in which case I might just share my screen in Teams and they can watch it along with me. You can also put questions along the way and watch whether they're responding so you can see if they're engaged in the video. So again, just another open-ended question. Who was the video made for? Why was it made? Use details from the video to explain and prove your answers. And a collaborate board where everybody gets to share ideas and put a heart on somebody's or put a reply underneath, and having a think about the different clues that they saw in the text. So if you have a look at the slide reel down the bottom, you can see that it's pretty much the same type of structure. We're going to have 3 different field trips of places around Vietnam, a time to climb about those places, just asking literal and inferential questions. We're going to then scan some web content. I'll give them a keyword like the word long, and they have to look for that word in the web content and then find the answer there. Then once they've done that, they have to be able to work out which was the right answer out of these 2. So just a drag and drop. Everyone's involved because they can have a go even if they can't remember the answer. It's just not onerous because they're not writing all the time, and it just reduces that cognitive load so much. Then we have, again, another similar activity where they're looking for these keywords: shape 392, exporter and sport in this web content, followed by a time to climb, which is about the literal questions. They're literal questions about the areas in that web content text that match those keywords, just to reinforce that idea. And then we go to the very end with just tell me some words to describe Vietnam, just to see what they've taken in. We go back through the success criteria and they have a look at the draw it and tell whether they are feeling more confident or not with the success criteria, whether they've developed their understanding at all or they still need help. Then we do a bit of a rapport building connection activity where everybody, what would you do or where would you go if you travelled Vietnam? So they would move their choices for activities across, and under definitely or no way, and we would all I would be able to see what they're doing, so I can make